roller skate slide. C did the twist with a candy cane. D duck walked in a daisy chain. E did the splits, what a show off. F grabbed the mic and started to doo-wop. G was grooving with a golden grin. H did a hop with a hula hoop spin. Hey, hey, it's the alphabet jive. Letters on the floor, jumping alive. A to Z, they're rocking the beat, tapping those toes and dancing those feet. Yeah, let's go, don't be shy. It's the A, B, C, D, E, F jive. We're the alphabet, we love fun. You get it? We're never gonna sit still. Yeah, I said it. I was itching for a jazzy jam. J jived in with a jelly bean slam. K kicked high with the kangaroo bounce. L spun low with a leap and pounce. M moonwalked in a flapperjack hat. N did the noodle with a neon cat. O rolled in like a big round wheel. P popping corn, keeping it real.
Well, welcome back. This is Three Old Friends and Music Never Ends, our 55th playlist. We're just cranking them out about every 2 weeks. We love doing this. Hopefully, there's a person or two who loves watching this. But at least listen to the playlist if you don't sit through this video, because there's a reason we put these songs out there, because we want to turn each other on to them, but we think they're songs that are worth giving a listen to. We may not always agree, but that's part of the fun too. So this time around, we're doing this new thing, and I'm not exactly sure how we're going to space the playlist or whatever, but we're going through the alphabet basically as a theme, and so we're breaking it up into chunks. Unless people want to see like more than 70 songs, let's see, that would be, yeah. I don't do math, but anyway. So the first one is A through E. So these are songs that are named the bands that begin with that letter. Not solo artists, not songs, unless the song is the name of the band. So I'll just jump right into it because I went first on this one. I went with Aerosmith. Not a band that I love all their stuff, but I do appreciate their place in music and kind of their influence. I guess more recent stuff, not as much into, but their second album, Toys in the Attic, has always been a favorite. But I think the first 3 or 4 maybe I really like, and their later stuff is good too. Plus they did that single cover of "Come Together" by the Beatles song. Anyway, that's not this. So I did the title track, Toys in the Attic. I don't have a lot to say about it. I've always thought it was a kind of real driving, rocking song. It seems kind of really, unless you look at something like Dream On or something like, which is a great song, it could have easily gone here. But it's kind of more like what they do in the rock and stuff when they're not doing the ballads. The only other thing I'd say about this song, and again, there's great songs in this album. REM covered it. They have a disc out there of kind of B-sides and other stuff, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So, what'd you guys think?
Yeah, Aerosmith's one of those bands that I probably didn't own the records and stuff like that, but I always knew their greatest hits or their big stuff. I guess this was from the mid 70s. This is probably where they started to take off a little bit in the mid 70s, and they had Sweet Emotion and Walk This Way were the 2 big hits on that album or whatever. And I was familiar with this song, but again, because I didn't own the album, it wasn't one that I had heard a lot. So when you put it on, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember the album name, I remember the song. But it wasn't right in the top of my mind, and so listening to it again after all these many years brought back some memories. Jose will remember we went to Aerosmith and had pretty good seats. We were like 10th row or something, center stage, and so brought back some memories. And again, this is where they kind of from mid 70s they started taking off and being better. And as you know, later on, 1986 or something like that, then Run DMC took Walk This Way and recovered it, and it kind of gave a resurgence to Aerosmith really at the time. But talented group all the way around. You know, maybe they're not the Rolling Stones, maybe they're not Led Zeppelin, maybe they're not, you know, some of these other super groups of that time. But they held their own, and good way to start the playlist of A's. It definitely fits.
Yeah, first of all, let me say, kind of a little surprise for Mike, but I'm glad to see it, a little rock and song there. But I can't believe Dave isn't calling this the worst concert we've ever been to in our lives. And it was just an array of things. And we caught them, unfortunately. Yeah, this was their high moments, the Toys in the Attic, the early 70s. And then they hit that lull when Joe Perry left, and then they replaced them. And then they had a couple albums like Something About Lightning and then Rock in a Hard Place. And I actually bought that album, and it is as bad as you think it is. And but we saw them on that tour, and it was as bad as you think it was. It was at their lowest point. So, but you could say, oh, we always saw Aerosmith. Not to mention the Rose Tattoo opener, which was, you know, just the highlight of nothing.
One way I always remembered is because it was New Year's Eve, like 1982, right? So that was kind of an odd day to have the concert and everything else. And
well, that's what made it worse, is that people had fireworks and people were shooting bottle rockets in an indoor arena. And then to boot, they had those ones that fly that make different colors. Well, of course, when they stop, they just catch fire. So remember, the one guy 2 rows behind us caught on fire, basically. It was just a madhouse. Not to mention the guy bowling over everybody who grabbed the 100th drumstick the drummer threw out for whatever reason. Not just 1 or 2, but no, he was throwing them out like they were like on fire. And then them actually fighting on stage, which was a whole treat unto itself. The band members literally fighting on stage, and you're just like, what is going on here? So anyway,
and you don't generally want to be on the first. You don't generally want to be on the first row of an Aerosmith concert because they are some sweaty dudes.
Well, remember, even worse is that he had that big fan. First of all, he's playing them a harmonica, and on Sweet Emotions forgets the words to Sweet Emotions. Of course, why would you join your #1 hit? Grabs that harmonica, doesn't just throw it in the stands like, here you go, guys. No, whipped it. Like, I felt bad for anyone who was within 5 rows of that thing. And then that has the big fan off to the side. Well, he takes that gulp of water and then spits into the fan onto the crowd. You're just like, oh my God, this guy, everything that could go wrong in a concert. I mean, they did. It was just, and that's always been the worst concert I've ever been to. We had 7th row, yeah. We had really great seats, and it was just a nightmare of a show. And
I think at that point they were like way into their substance abuse issues.
right, this is right before they had the resurgence with Pump and all the other ones, and then of course eventually with Run DMC. But yeah, this was their lowest of low points. You could just tell it was just they did not get along, and oh my God, it was just a nightmare. So anyway, there you go. Not to be distracted by the worst concert ever. I went A's for Audio Slave for me. Like a Stone, of course, Audio Slave was banned. Like it was kind of like a super group, so to speak, with Chris Cornell, who was with Soundgarden, and Tom Morello with Rage Against the Machine, and they formed this group, pretty much Passion Rage. And they formed this group, and it lasted a couple of years before, of course, obviously, Chris Cornell is no longer with us, but they had a couple of albums. They weren't the greatest, but there were some songs on there here and there that I thought weren't bad. And I have to admit, I'm a huge Tom Morello fan, so I thought, you know, exposing us to something new or something that kind of got passed over in ours and kind of lives there in a corner. So yeah, that's why I picked Like a Stone.
I'm glad you put this one on. A, I like the song. But B, I'd heard of Audio Slave. I probably have even heard them and not realized, but I couldn't have told you anything about them before we listened to the song. And the first thing, I didn't really look them up before I heard it. And I'm like, wow, that really sounds like Chris Cornell. And then my second thought was, that can't be, because I've heard what Jose said about Soundgarden before. He's not a big fan of Soundgarden. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to paint you in a corner there, but I was like, I like Soundgarden, and I like Chris Cornell, and it is a tragedy, his issues and where it took him. But this is there's not much else I can say. I like this song, and now I have more knowledge about these guys, and we'll check them out. And yeah, Tom Morello, I respect him. Don't always agree with him politically, but I do respect a lot of what he has to say with that band, Rage Against the Machine.
So I wasn't familiar with this track or this group, Audio Slave. So here's probably a point where I want to say this. You know, so okay, so we decided to do A, B, C, D, E, right? And you know, we're always kind of trying to look for some different groups or ones we haven't put on in a while, or ones we haven't put on, which is kind of good because it gives us a little bit out of our comfort zone and kind of gets us out of our shell a little bit, looking for some other things. And so, like, for right off the bat, I mean, okay, so we have A, B, C, D, E, right? Could we go AC/DC? Yeah, we could have. Could we go the Beatles? Yeah, done that, played that, done that. You know, I could go on and on, you know, with the C's and D's and all the way through. I got to the E's and I was thinking, oh, we can put on an Eagles song, right? You know, so we didn't necessarily go with the one that would just pop into your head of, oh, with that letter, that's this group, right? We kind of, even on this whole playlist, I looked at the list and I think there were only 3 groups that we've used before out of 15, right? I mean, not to steal the thunder, but I think it was Black Sabbath, Dawn of the Buffalo, and ELO were probably the 3 that I think we've used. Everything else, oh, I think we had an Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe, or whatever. So maybe 3 or 4. So, but the point is, we're not always doing that. We're just going, well, let's look at the list here, and then we go. We always have a lot of, when we want to do our free form or our other thing, we always have a bunch of songs. We go, oh, I've been waiting to put that one on, right? But we never gets on for whatever reason or the theme. I think this gives us an opportunity to go, hey, now we're on that letter. I don't need to go with the Beatles or whatever it is. I'm going to go with a different group. And so that kind of gives us a little bit of flexibility to put on some different songs. But with that, my A selection was actually one I think Jose had put on an Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. But this was my opportunity to put on my favorite song on that first album of theirs, or their only album, a song called Quartet. And I know it's a little long. I think it's almost 9 minutes or something, but it's Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. But really, it's John Anderson. And I love John Anderson. I love his music. I love his solo stuff, John Evangelis, everything he's done. This, you can almost tell that he's like, oh, I have these 4 songs, quartet, and I just needed somebody to come in and put all the stuff to it. Hey, Steve Howe, you do your little thing, and Rick Wakeman, you play your thing, and Bill Bruford. Actually, was there even drums on this song? I kind of think back and think about this song, and I was thinking about this. There is a little bit, but it's not much. It's mostly Wakeman and Anderson singing. But the thing I love about it is just it's melodic. It's melodies, the words of it. It's positive. It's upbeat. That's John Anderson through and through. He probably had these songs in his solo archive ready to go when they put together Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, and Howe. And he said, "All right, let's make these collaboration thing." But anyway, I always liked that song, so I wanted to get it onto a playlist.
Yeah, you have to be a big, obviously, a John Anderson fan to appreciate that, and especially appreciate that album, which is nice. Which I consider that album kind of like the final hurrah of the Yes Tormato kind of era, even though it was kind of there. It was just kind of these 4 guys. And the song it's John Anderson's song, and it's 9 minutes, and obviously it's great if you're a John Anderson fan, which I am. So yeah, I found it. It's what you expected, and that album is really good. So yeah, not a bad.
You know, I've been trying to remember. My record collection is just a fraction of what it used to be. And I think I bought this record. If I didn't buy it, one of you guys had it and brought it to one of our old days playlist things, or maybe I borrowed it. I don't know. But I do remember it, and I feel like I remember this song. So I don't know if we used this before. I don't know, but it
No.
is. I've
Yeah.
heard it somewhere.
Yeah, let me say about the song also as well is that I don't know, it had to be a newer song he wrote because he's like responding to uses like long distance, he uses all the little gates
Yes,
of-
references,
right, all
the
so
gates of delirium.
right. So it's kind of a little homage to that era, I think. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's fine. And that was one of the things I was going to say. It was kind of funny. I mean, I caught that right away. Roundabouts in there, and I didn't count up all the references, but there's a couple. And yeah, to me it sounds like a John Anderson song. I guess with the keyboards, and I get there is some guitar, that almost sounds like a mandolin. Maybe it was a mandolin, but to me it sounds more like him than classic Yes. But this isn't. They don't have Yes on the album cover, so I don't really know the history of this project and if it was considered more of a each one contributed their kind of thing or what. But yeah, so I definitely remember this from somewhere. And to go back to the thing you said, it go a playlist like this, and one way you can think of, well, it's almost free form. You can put anything by a group in A at first, but it's also limited because some of these letters, and this will come up, I'm sure, in the future. There's only so many bands, we're excluding all solo artists. And so in some cases, I kind of felt I had some hard choices to make what I was going to put on. So, and also think, and this will come up, both kind of related to that and the point about we're trying out, we're kind of putting stuff out there that bands we haven't put out before or whatever, mostly. And I've really been trying to do that more than when I first started. And so that could make it sound disjointed. And I think we'll all agree. I won't speak for you guys, but I will readily say that, yeah, it's not a smooth thing. Um, and I did play my part in that. I like this playlist and everything, but yeah, I think it's why the nature of this one, it's gonna kind of maybe be some of that. You'd have to try really hard when you have maybe 3 or 4 bands or whatever, and to like get a good flow, but I still think it's great. So I'm going on too much about that. And in a way, I guess you could say this next song, what I chose, we're moving to B now. It was Big Star. And in a way, I picked it because I really like these guys, and they were a power pop band from the early 70s, came from other kind of groups and came together. They really influence a lot of people. If you look up about them, I mean, REM, some of their stuff they said, I'm blanking on the others, but the Replacements, I said, if you know about them, they said, or at least some of them said they were an influence. And so I kind of came to them late in life. I don't know that I like everything. I'm still kind of getting used to it, but this is one I like. It's called Back of a Car. And it's basically, if you think the back of a car, it kind of ties to that. And, this is how I read it. I didn't look anything up on it, but the maybe scary parts and of a new relationship and maybe struggling to understand each other, or just what is this thing, that's how I read it. But they've all died. Alex Chilton, I'm trying to remember the band he's from, the Box Tops. If you ever heard of the Box Tops, they were a 60s band. And he passed away a few years ago, and the other singer in the band died soon into like 2 albums into their career in a car crash. So, but yeah, I kind of wanted to turn you guys onto something I like that I didn't know if you had heard of them. So, Big Star.
Yeah, again, this another one never heard of or whatever. So it's always kind of neat to get some different music out there. Didn't really do any research about it, but it was a good. I liked the song. It was good. Thought it was. Um, as I was building my little collage thing in the background here, I kind of look up the group real quick, and maybe sometimes I'll read a little bit about it. But in some cases, you can look at least we probably know where you can look at the band and you know right away, oh, that's Jeff Lynne, ELO, or that's, and you can see from their picture because they're maybe more well known, or at least we know them more, so we can go, oh, that's that. But there's some of them where, like, I started looking at their pictures, I'm like, man, if I post that picture, you couldn't pick them out. Like, I don't know that anyone would go, except for maybe Mike, because he picked the group, would say, yep, that's Big Star right there. Those are the 4 guys, or that's the band. I don't know if I think I did put them. Is that them in the lower left corner there?
It's
Who's
hard
the
to
one
tell.
on the-
This album cover is
who's that?
red.
Oh, but
Um,
who are these 4 right here in the lower corner?
well, I can only see the square, so I can't see the whole
Oh.
thing. So
Anyway, if you know who they are, at first I was going to put, all the just different the groups, and then at some point I started putting on either the album cover, or like you'll see Dinosaur Jr. there, the name. I'm like, if I just put the people that are in Dinosaur Jr., we get to a point where everybody's like, I don't know who that is, or whatever. So anyway, that was a good song, and like I said, appreciate you turning us on to different groups.
Yeah, and going and kind of piggybacking what Mike was saying, that how even the first 3 songs, this whole playlist is one of those that is, it takes a lot of twists and turns, and we get a lot of variety of music. And, 1 minute we're quartet, having a wonderful life with John Anderson. The next thing you know, you were in a car. And I mean, it comes on strong. The transition there is like, what? We're back in a car. Whoa. And so, but, then you get to listen to the song and appreciate it. So yeah, I think I'd heard of Big Star. We were talking about documentaries. I think I'd seen the documentary on Big Star for whatever reason, like they were huge. So anyway, it's out there. So, and it's a good song, but like Mike said, it definitely catches you off guard. But so do the first 3 songs. I mean, we go from Aerosmith to Audio Slave to Anderson, Bruford Wake to Big Star, and then mine. Then all of a sudden we're at Black Sabbath, and and of course it sounds strange, but of course this Black Sabbath song isn't your, I guess, typical Ozzy Black Sabbath song, so to speak. It's not that anything's wrong with that, but Ronnie James Dio off the Heaven and Hell, Children of the Sea. It's just a song that I used to like. Obviously, we played it a lot off the Heaven and Hell album. I like that era of Black Sabbath, especially when I was growing up, and it's just a great song, I think, and a great rock and roll song. So that's why I put it on. I went with Black Sabbath. See, I went with the regular group, Black Sabbath.
Yeah, so I recognize the album cover. It's a very good angel smoking cigarettes, taking a cigarette break. But I'm not very familiar with the Dio period of this. I just really kind of knew the Ozzy stuff. And that's, I was into their stuff, but I didn't really ever take a deep dive. So the Dio stuff was kind of less known. I know some of my friends listened to it because I remember hearing them play it. I do like the kind of thought behind this song. It's like, I don't know if you'd call it an environmental song, or if you would say it's like we're not appreciating this thing we have, and then it's until it falls apart. I don't know. That's a Children of the Sun, Children of the Sea. If I said Children of the Sun, I don't know. It's a different thing. But yeah, I like that. I really, actually, I'm glad you put this one on, even though I wasn't familiar with it for that very reason. The lyrics are really interesting to me. And yeah,
Okay, so I'm kind of the opposite of what Mike said. With here's my Black Sabbath story. Jose would bring over the some of the early Black Sabbath, and I'd be like, okay, I like some heavy metal stuff, but never was I like that big on Ozzy. Like, rest in peace, Ozzy. I mean, he's great and everything like that. But when the Heaven and Hell album came out and it was Ronnie James Dio, I heard that and I said, man, I like that. I like that better than the old stuff. And so I got that album, Heaven and Hell, got the next one, Mob Rules, got the Live Evil album, Double Live, and so that period was like, that was my Black Sabbath era kind of thing, junior, senior year, high school kind of stuff, heavy metal. And so I really liked it. And then when you put this song on, this might be like, if not my favorite, if top 2 or 3 favorite Black Sabbath songs. But it doesn't get airplay. It wasn't one of their most, whatever. But it just, when you try to define what Black Sabbath was in that period with Ronnie James Dio, this song is just stands out. So excellent. And I read a little bit about it. This was like the first song where it kind of had been the stuff would have been written before and was going to be used on this album. And then Ronnie James Dio came in and said, okay, well, he kind of more collaborated with Tony Iommi and with Geezer Butler and made it made its own unique sound. And again, you're either a Dio fan or you're not. You're either an Ozzy fan or you're not. It's one of those kind of deal. But I in terms of heavy metal music and that vocal, I'm a big Ronnie James Dio fan. Also, rest in peace, and even his solo stuff that he did afterwards as well. So good choice. Love the tune. I also like songs like this that start out soft, acoustic, have a little thing to it, and then gets into the heavy part of it, and then at the end we'll come back to in the misty morning. I like songs that do that. I don't know what it is about them.
Give me your best demon dance. Come on, Dave.
And we did the demon dance, rush to nevermore.
I should never have unleashed him.
what is a demon dance anyway?
I don't know, but at the time, my parents, me hearing this, would think, you're satanic. You're listening to, there's nothing about that. It's just the fact that it's a cool lyric, and he's the little demon, the elf,
It was just a good line. Yeah, we used to love that line. It was good.
But yeah, it's a great song. So when you put this in the playlist, I went, yeah, finally this song, anyway. And then again, following that, it's kind of tough to follow a hard song like that. What do I come up with? So I'm looking down my list of B bands and thought about Boston, but I know Jose is not a Boston fan.
Jesus.
Could have gone that way maybe, because they have a couple of iconic albums as well. And then I saw Blues Traveler on my list, and I said, you know what? I can't remember if we put any Blues Traveler on or not, but there's about 3 or 4 songs that I like of theirs, and this is one of them. Love the harmonica. That's why I put that picture back there in the back, the hook. And it even though it's not heavy metal, it picks up the tempo later in the song and becomes an upbeat kind of song. So I thought maybe it'd go good after that.
Yeah, it's one of those songs that was obviously huge. Here, I'll go into a little jam band corner. There was that period in about 94-ish, 95, where jam bands were getting a look because of Lollapalooza, because Fish was on the tour, and Spin Doctors and some other kind of bands like that were on the cusp, and it was big. And of course, Blues Travelers had this song with a hook, no pun intended, and it was all over the place. I remember it, and they were big for a while, and they're still around and they still play. I think they're still touring. So I think my friend Alan's actually worked with them before, selling some of their merch when they came to Lima. So yeah, it's a big song. I don't mind it. I haven't heard it in a long time, but so once you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that song. I remember. you know, 'cause you just don't know by the name until you hear it. So yeah,
Yeah, I definitely remember this from back in the day. It was all over the radio stations I listened to. It was mainly just one, but I never really. It's another one of these where, like back in the day, boy, it was everywhere, but I never really paid attention to the lyrics. I kind of got the hook thing, and I thought it was either songs about people trying to sell you stuff or politicians lying and trying to tell you what you want. But again, like making this playlist, I read the lyrics, and I thought it was good. It's like he's in a way, I guess he's whether he's singing about himself or not. He's like singing about, I'm giving you this song, and I'm not going to lie to you. There's a hook in here that'll draw you in, but am I being honest? He's talking about what he's selling out there. And then I also like the name dropping parts. He says, I'm about to drop a bunch of names. Renton 10. I was thinking it was Gunga Din. It's not. It's Anne Boleyn, but then a few others. MTV, and actually I have a much more of appreciation of this having heard read the lyrics. It does a little bit of a kind of. I'm kind of amazed that he could do that fast kind of rapping. I don't know what you'd call that part. There's some tongue twisters in there. Remind me a little bit of, what was it we did? Was it last time? The
Bare Naked Ladies.
Bare Naked Ladies. It always reminded me of that for that part. But yeah, I remember it
Or
was
like,
kind of
or
a.
like or like REM, End of the World,
Oh,
as I know it, like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Throwing a bunch of stuff in there quick. I don't know. Well, we'll get onto that if we ever do that song. But yeah, so another good one, to another learning experience. So my next one, we're moving to C, and I'm really glad that I get to go first because I've heard a little hint of some opinions about this. And we've talked about you need to defend your song. I'm not going to look at it this way, because I should say it's a band called Calexico, and the song is called Praskovia. All right. I heard this on this one probably same station I used to hear the Blues Traveler on back in the day. Heard this more recently, this band on the radio, and this song in particular, and for whatever reason, it caught my attention. And so, like I talked about this where I earlier in this thing, it's like there's stuff I want to turn you guys on to. The pool of stuff that I listen to, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. Most of the time I kind of limit it to stuff. It's like, I know you guys are gonna like, or I'm pretty sure you'll like it. Sometimes I expand it out a little bit where I'm like, I don't know, we'll see. There's stuff that I haven't put on, like if you want to hear Les Paul and Mary Ford, I can do that sometime. It's not necessarily fitting in with the rock stuff. But so this band, it's this song. I'm sorry to steal your thunder, but somebody mentioned Lawrence Welk. So the beginning, yeah, it does start out. It's kind of a almost a Romani or Eastern European flavor to this, and most of their stuff was more like bringing in kind of Latino and things like that. A lot of international stuff. If you've heard, that's not the best way to put it. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but they would do stuff kind of influenced by that and by jazz and whatever. This song is nothing like that. It's but if you get past the first few seconds with what you call it, a accordion, which is one reason why I picked it, because I don't know why I'm thinking harmonica accordion, but there you go. But what I really like about the song is that discordant guitar, and they're kind of like pushing the boundaries a little bit, which that's where maybe I would disagree about, it's as an easy listening song. So I guess I am defending it, and you guys go to it.
You don't have to defend your songs. We got it. When it first came on, when you first put it on, because we don't like Praskovia from, it could remind me of kind of like what was it, Grupo Fantasmo or whatever, You know, I thought maybe it was gonna be something really eclectic like that, Porqué, one of those, but it is different,
And,
but it's okay. Different is okay, you know. And I didn't really pick up on that it was an accordion, I guess, on that, but probably it went well after that. After, like you said, after you got past that first few seconds on it, I didn't know what to make of it at first, but after I listened to it a few times, you mentioned the Eastern European thing. So then now what popped into my head was something like Peter and the Wolf or Fantasia or something like that. It had that feel to it. But then later on, it gets more into a Mexican type, jazzy type, whatever, with the instrumentation. I never heard of Calexico, but when I looked it up, it was a town in California, not a band. So is that a place that's like, is that like a border town or something?
Yeah, I think it's like, yeah, I can't say for sure, but I know it's at least kind of that region, Southern California and Mexico. They're from Tucson, so I don't know where they got the name. I think there's an explanation I saw, but I don't
Well,
know.
the other thing that caught my eye when I looked them up is, like I said, I put the collages and stuff together, was they have fantastic artwork on their albums. Like if you just go look at their album covers, they're pretty cool looking. So yeah, I didn't mind the song. It didn't wreck the playlist for me at all. It wasn't one of those. So yeah, I had no other issues. You mentioned the accordion. I guess with the accordion stuff, we could have, with one of the bees, we forgot we could have done, what's that group, Buckwheat Zydeco or something like that. That Cajun kind of. Anyway, enough said. Didn't have a problem with the song, the
Yeah.
instrumental.
Like I told Mike, and he knows my feelings about this. It was like our musical interlude. Like I'm listening, like you're watching a movie and it's 3 hours long, and then all of a sudden there's this musical intermission. Da, 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 and then boom, we're back to your regular programming. That's how I looked at it this way. Or like I
Maybe
told
like,
him before, you go to a
like
friend's house. Go ahead.
sorry to cut you off. I was thinking maybe like, remember those Woody Allen movies when the music of that, like the album is a like Bananas or
Right, well, they have that little music, not Benny Hillish, but
no.
yeah, but it's just like the overture that comes in the middle of a movie, like Lawrence of Arabia or something like that. But yeah, uh, like I said, it is what it is. It's in there, so let's just say I probably won't be going out and buying any of it soon. So
I will just add, I'm sorry to interrupt.
go ahead.
It is a lot different from, they have other stuff that sounds a lot different. So I may try some of their other stuff on you.
Okay, sure.
Lyrics too. They have lyrics.
Just musical
In English or in Tex-Mex or
I think there's kind of a mix of stuff. The guitarist on here is French. I don't know who the trumpet player is,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Well, did we find out what Truscovia is?
I should be able to answer that question.
Okay.
I kind of like, when I looked up the song, the first thing that came up was like, I think it's either some place in Eastern Europe. I don't know. If you give me a
Okay.
minute, I can come back.
So continuing with the C's and maybe in that stuff that we don't listen to all the time and definitely didn't listen to that much growing up. Well, I didn't. I don't know if y'all, but Camper Van Beethoven, which obviously the name itself, but people like that, and they always have different interpretations of what that's going to sound like. But one of these days by Camper, and it's really just one of those nice little straightforward songs that I enjoy. I think a lot of people have a misconception of who Camper Van Beethoven is. So just thought I'd put it on a little exposure. See, Mike? Exposure. I'm putting it out there. We've never had a Camper Van Beethoven for sure on the playlist. So
Yeah, I like that song. I like this song in particular, and it was nice to hear it because there was a time where I used to work with a guy who would play one of their I'm trying to remember the name of it, one of their CDs, or I guess it might have been a tape, but either way, and they had a song that I guess got a little more airplay where I remember, I don't know, maybe just what I remember, Where the Hell is Bill? And it's like the whole song is listing all the places Bill might be, like out buying a punk rock t-shirt, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but this song, I like it. And actually, I think it went well after that last one. And there's not much more to say about them, except I'm glad that they came back into my attention. And I've listened to a little bit of it since then. They're good. They're good. There was like a certain time period. And there were other bands kind of. That's kind of the case on some of the a number of these. It was like they were part of their time, and there were other bands kind of in that same sphere. Well, it'll come up again, I'm sure. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't familiar with this group or the song, but I liked it a lot on this playlist. When I saw One of These Days, I said, "Is that Pink Floyd cover or something?" Or no, it's not. Going back just for a second though, we talk about this sometimes is and it's I don't think we're consciously thinking of it because we're just putting these different songs on. But the end of the hook and going into Praskovia, if you listen to it and how it blends together, I don't know if it's the keys that it's in or the transition of it, but it worked really well. So if you go back and listen to it again, pay particular attention to the end of the hook and the beginning of Praskovia. And again, if you didn't know, you might go, "Oh man, Mike just perfectly put that song that just blends right in," you know, or whatever. But I don't think we think of things like that until we listen to it later on. But no, I enjoyed the song again. Wasn't familiar with it, but then I was trying to figure out the kind of the vibe of the song and maybe what would kind of go next and whatnot. And the same kind of thing is we probably all know the Cars. I don't think I had a lot. I didn't have their albums and stuff, but there's, you know, their greatest hits. I know a lot of their songs, and you know they had their heyday in the day, and the Cars, Rick Ocasek and everything. I said, okay, let me look at what Cars song could I put on that would go after this. And just the beginning of that song, the way when you hear that first few notes of the Just What I Needed, everyone knows what it is, but I just like that one, dun, 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 you know, and it gets in and builds into when he finally comes in with the lyric. And I don't know, it's just always been a cool favorite song of mine that I've liked. Look for an opportunity, and this was a perfect opportunity to put it on.
Yeah, they were as big can get back in the day with all, especially the Shake It Up and all the albums. And in fact, I remember for one of my brother's birthday, this is the album that they wanted, was so they could listen to this song all the time. So I got my steady dose of just and the Cars. And I think Pablo, even saw them in concert, but he said they were horrible, that they just stand up there. And so anyway, it's a good song. Just a song that you, back in the heyday, we heard a lot. So I enjoy it. I mean, and it's fun to sing along with. It's just one of those songs that you like to sing along with. And I used to sing along with my brother, so I remember it well.
Yeah, I remember this well too. It was there were several that got a lot of airplay back in the day, but definitely this one. It was a staple of rock stations for a long time. Still hear it, but the thing I always liked about the Cars was, like, if you look at them, like look at the concept of them, and try to picture them as like a popular rock band. They're these kind of quirky dudes, and you know, they're a little offbeat. You know, I guess at least Rick Ocasek or Kasich, whatever, was buddies with, or at least acquainted with Andy Warhol. It was just like they were different, and that's one of the things I liked about them. My favorite album was Candy-O, and I almost put a song from that on here. That was maybe their second album. I don't know, but I didn't. I put Calexico, and I'm glad you got the Cars on there. We have not had them yet, I don't believe. The only other question I have about them: can you guys tell apart the singers? Like, I still to this day have trouble between Rick Ocasek and, is it Elliot Easton?
So
except for the
who's
song
that?
Drive, you
So
know.
I think Okasik's in the front, right? He's
Well,
like
they,
this,
they,
right?
they alternate, mainly him, I think, but there's a
Yeah.
few songs by the other guy. They both since passed away, but like the song Drive, it's not Ocasek, it's the other guy. But their voices are so similar to me. Anyway, whatever. So, just to go back to close an open thing there, Praskovia, according to Google AI, is a Russian female name of Greek origin, meaning preparation or Friday, related to the Sabbath. There was also somebody Praskovia who was married to a czar. That's all I know. I
That
saw Proskovy is apparently, it sounds like a Russian or at least Slavic word. And that again, so that kind of fits in. Proskovy is apparently a type of dessert pastry, something that involves, I think, peaches or apricots or something. So there you go. I didn't know that the whole time I listened to that song. So, figure out how that works. So, all right, so here's another, I don't know if this is disjointed or not. It's another one of these. I wanted to kind of go a different direction. And I guess it's kind of doesn't necessarily smoothly flow. So we're at D, Dinosaur Jr., and the song is Start Chopping. Uh, but this is a band that like they were kind of, to me, they were kind of in the same period as Sonic Youth and some that kind of sound. There's some other, I don't know if you include who all you'd include of that, but that's in my mind. That's how I always think of them. And this was kind of their like when they kind of broke through getting into the airplay mode, except for on like, small co-op stations or whatever. And I don't know. I have two thoughts on this. Initially, when I put it on, I want to get some Dinosaur Jr. I don't know a lot of their other stuff. And then I listened to it for a while. I'm like, I don't know if I like this, but you know what? Now I'm kind of like, no, it's a good song. They have this distinct sound. There's a number of ways you could criticize. It kind of has a whining voice. It's kind of a downer of a song, but that really hadn't stopped us before. We have plenty of whiners and downer songs. At least I have. So I just thought again, it was one of these. I wanted to put something out there that I haven't done before, and I am wanting to do more of that, like I said, but I do also want to go back to the classic stuff too.
Well, I sound like a broken record, but there's another one I had never heard of or anything, but had to give it a couple of listens before I, kind of locked in on it. I liked it. Kind of what I remember of it is, and when I go back to the looking at the lyrics, where this is the one where towards the end of some of the phrases he goes like goodbye or whatever, right? Like kind of a high
Yeah,
pitched thing. Well, and the first time I heard it, I thought that sounds kind of annoying, but after I listened to it a few times, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of that's his signature thing or whatever it is. But it went well in the song, and like I said, I have no complaints about it. Again, we're listening to different music we haven't heard in a while, or we haven't heard at all, and this is another one. So you'll probably have to point me in the right direction in terms of other, or the good thing about Apple Music, or if we're allowed to say that, or any of these things, these other streaming platforms, is that you can go out to there, and generally when you go out to there and you type in that group, it'll give you their top selections, right? There's the songs that are most popular, most played, or whatever. So you can listen to their top 4 or 5 songs to get an idea if you like them, and you don't have to go, album number 11, deep track number 6, to really appreciate, who they are and what their sound is about. But again, I thought this Start Chopping was a good song.
that high note. Sorry to jump in there
No
before
worries.
it goes. That high note is actually kind of what was bugging me for a while. But it's funny, we had the song Hook. That is the hook of this song. It's like if you remember anything about the song, it's probably that. Lyrics are hard to understand. I had to look them up. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember when they kind of hit the scene, they were kind of like, who are these guys and what are their names and what do they do? And so they were kind of one of those underground groups that, but then they started getting their fair share of airplay. And I told Mike this, if you listen to this song and you listen to Buddy Holly by Weezer, tell me that they're not that same song. Even towards the end where he goes the high note, if you listen to Buddy Holly, there's that high note, but they have that there's a certain chord progression that both of them use if you listen to them back to back. Anyway, just a thing. And I think Mike and I talked about it. I think, and I was just kind of looking at that, yeah, Dinosaur Jr. came before them, so it must have come from them. It must have been an influence of that, one way or another.
The songs were a year apart, so for
Right.
whatever that's worth.
Yeah, but they sound almost identical in certain parts. So anyway, it's a good song, and it's part of. I'm not the biggest Dinosaur Jr. or Weezer fan, but I understand where they come from. I know a lot of people who like them. So then I went kind of a little different. I think I've used Donna's Buffalo one more time. I just like their sound, and I like putting their music on. That's the only reason I put the song on. Obviously, they obviously have a great message, and I like the lyrics, and I just like the way that they sound, their vibe. So yeah.
Yeah, I knew, well, you told us the name of the song before, but if you hadn't, and I heard this song, that would be in my mind. You'd put one other song. And it is a similar sound in a way. They're definitely different songs, but similar message too, that kind of positive thing. I don't know much about them, but that's great. I guess they're jam band, right? That's kind of their,
Right.
if you had to give them a categorize them. But yeah, no, I would have no problem hearing some more of their stuff.
Yeah, I'm becoming a fan, just like we talked with like Lucinda Williams and Railroad Earth and some of these other ones that both of you guys have put on. This is another one where I never have a problem with the Dawn of the Buffalo. Was that what it was supposed to be? Dawn of the Buffalo, but it became Dawn of the Buffalo. Anyway, this is a way cool song. Yeah, I liked it a lot. Thought it fit well in the playlist and everything. Yeah, bring me some more of it. Definitely, for sure. From there, again, this is where we get a little bit sometimes choppy and everything. We were kind of in a groove there with Camper Van Beethoven, the Cars, Dinosaur Jr., Dawn of the Buffalo. They were all kind of mixing real well. And then I thought, all right, I'm on D, and Mike can appreciate this. What I'm going to say, I'm looking at my D list, and I'm like, there's the Dream Academy again. Now I've already did Life in a Northern Town. Not going to go there. Oh, here's that David and David I wanted to do. Welcome to the Boomtown. It's coming. And then for whatever reason, I saw Diamond Rio. Now I don't know Diamond Rio from anybody. I don't know their music. I don't know their band. Never owned anything. I just know this one song by Diamond Rio, and it's just a favorite song of mine. And so I said, it's called One More Day. It's kind of about, you lose somebody you loved, and then, if you had any kind of wish was granted, what would you wish for? And it was just, I would just wish for one more day with them, and it would never be enough, but just the sentiment of it, the tune of it, the melody, the lyrics, it just always has grabbed me as a song. It's always in my head a lot of times when I'm sad or I'm thinking of somebody I lost, and I walk around the house and I sing it, and the harmonies of it are great. Again, I don't know much about Diamond Rio, but it's a D band, and this is where I got an opportunity to have that collection of songs that I can't figure out when I'm going to put it on a playlist, and it made it.
And it made it. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it's a good song. It's what you expect. It's one of these kind of, poppy kind of. But my question is, if you could wish for one thing, it wouldn't be one more day. Wouldn't you I wish for eternity to be with them? Or I wish for 1,000 days. But to say I just wish, dude, you're selling yourself short. They're giving you one wish.
But he did, but you notice he said, I didn't ask for money, which was our previous playlist, right?
Right.
Or a mansion in Malibu. I just
Right.
simply wish for one more day with you.
Just one more day. But you're like, dude, if you
One
could
more
wish
day.
for one, could you not wish for 10?
But if you only had one day, what would you do? And it's just,
Well,
man,
yeah, but
hold
that's
them and
not
love
the
them.
yeah, but that's not the wish. Because if your real wish is like, I wish I could just spend the rest of my life with them. So anyway, we're not gonna get off on a tangent. And they're still touring, by the way. So if you want to go see them, because coincidentally, I was driving here listening to this song, and then I saw like on a billboard, so I'm like, Diamond Rio's coming to San Antonio and stuff. So yeah, it's one of the, I call those one of our playlist moments, but it's a nice, fun, nice, interesting song. I'll call it a Dave song. How about that?
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'd heard of them too. I don't think I'd even heard this song, but I'd heard of the band definitely. And it seems like they're pretty big, or have been at least. I don't know. I will just about the one more day, yeah, if I had one more wish, it would be for eternity. I get that. Although he does address it on here. I'm gonna read some lyrics. It's one more day, one more time, one more sunset. Maybe I'd be satisfied. But then again, I know what I would do. Leave me wishing still for one more day with you. So he's like, if on that day, I'm gonna wish for one more day, So maybe a little foresight, if you're talking to a genie or whatever, go ahead and wish for more than one day, but whatever. I didn't write this song. No, I initially heard it. It's interesting how when you hear a song, kind of what you project into it, and it's not necessarily what they mean, but that like long term, like I mentioned the hook thing, I thought it was about politics or something, which I guess it could tangentially, but then I read the song, lyrics, and I'm like, oh, that's maybe not really where he's going. And so I heard this when I heard it I thought it was like somebody left him, and it is somebody left. I figured I thought it was like a breakup. But then I was kind of reading because I want to read the lyrics, and there are a lot of references. This is maybe somebody who died. And when I picked the next song, going into the E's, I was not thinking of it as somebody who died, or I would not have picked this particular song. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make light of that. I'm making fun of myself. But I was trying to be kind of contrary, and I put an Everly Brothers song, "Gone, Gone, Gone." It's like that's like I'm gonna leave you. The whole song is "You better shape up, or I'm gonna leave you." I did not know this song. Well, we haven't had the Everly Brothers on, and a lot of bands we've listened to, at least some, were influenced by them, particularly Simon and Garfunkel. We actually had a cover in part of one of their songs. Was it? Oh, wait, did they do Maybelline on Kodachrome?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. But I know, like, if you get some of their other stuff, that didn't necessarily make it records. They did do some live covers of the Everly Brothers. Anyway, that aside, yeah. So this song I knew from Robert Plant and Alison Krauss did this song. I knew it was a cover. I just didn't know who. And they changed it. This song is kind of interesting because it doesn't really have a chorus necessarily. It's just like a verse, little instrument part, a verse. You could argue the last part of the verse is the chorus type thing. It's a repetition. But on the Robert Plant, they add a little bridge in there that kind of breaks that up. And they don't do that on this. So I thought that was interesting. Not much more I can say about it. It's just like you better watch it, or I'm going to be gone.
Well, I think I've talked about this offline, but we need to do a like late 50s, early 60s, early rock and roll. We need to just focus on that time period, I think, at some point, where the Everly Brothers and others were big at that time. Like I said, I don't think I had Everly Brothers albums, but Bye Bye Love, Wake Up Little Susie. I mean, some of those iconic songs by the Everly Brothers, everyone knows. And this is one where I know I'd heard it before, but I hadn't heard it in a long, long time. And so yeah, it's a good tune. It's a good Everly Brothers song. But we need to go visit that time period, do a little Elvis and all of that early '60s time period, right? I think that'd make for a great playlist.
Elvis, not just a
E,
joke.
yeah,
Well,
E. So we didn't even pick it. Oh, well, that's a solo artist. So
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
true, and yeah, and we often overlook some of the pioneers because we're so ingrained, and we always think, oh, we're gonna at some point run out of songs or run out of topics, but and then we go, we don't have a topic, but of course we come up with 1,000 of them in an instant, and it's funny that we've gone 55, and this is the first Everly Brothers appearance, so that just tells you plenty of music out there, plenty of music that we enjoy that we still hasn't made the playlist. So it's a great tune. I will say that yeah, these last three songs are kind of the most, they go their own way, so it's kind of funny. And actually, when I was thinking about picking a song with E, I I was thinking of the Eagles. I like Eagles, but then we use them too much, and then I said, well, we don't use ELO a lot, but even I'm not that familiar with ELO as much, so I just put Calling America. I might regret it. I might have put another song on there, but I still enjoy it because then it's just one more ELO song that I get to enjoy and learn. And I thought it went well. I mean, like I said, these last three songs don't really go well together, but it's interesting. They're all interesting songs to say the least.
Yeah, I of course I always appreciate ELO. I may be the bigger ELO fan of the group here, but and I put on at least two songs, maybe more, but I looked at that, and for that reason that I've used them before, I thought I should do something else. But they were, and the Eagles too. Same with that. They were high on my list, but I thought, well, and so yeah, I like this song. I know it is different. This is kind of when they came back, and really being honest here, it's basically Jeff Lynne at this point. The other guys kind of left. It had become more, I don't even know if they had strings. When they started out, it was ELO, it was Electric Light Orchestra. And there was a lot of orchestral stuff. Then they went through the album Discovery, which people derisively called Disco Very. And that's kind of when they really started doing more of the kind of synthesizer, kind of poppy, maybe drum machines and stuff. And he definitely developed the sound, and you hear it here. But this is there. So there's a period I didn't like their stuff, but then they came back and did stuff, and I really liked this one. My son, I took my son and I to see them on their farewell U.S. tour, and they did this song, and it was really good. So no complaints.
Okay.
Yeah, I like ELO too. And again, maybe not as much as Mike, but I was able to sneak in Diary of Horace Wimp, onto the playlist. So yeah, I don't think my ELO knowledge was probably limited to greatest hits and maybe Discovery, maybe a couple of albums, but yeah, I never complain either. ELO is like one of those. I don't know, one of those bands that when I hear it, I know it, and I never like automatically go, oh, I don't want to hear ELO. Every time it comes on in some form or fashion, or even a song I'm not familiar with, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll give that a listen to. So yeah, it was a good choice. From there, then, like Jose mentioned, Ari mentioned, there's other bands that we could have used. At that point, I was just looking through my list, and I came across this band that I think I said this before. A couple of my older kids, when they were listening to music back in the '90s, would go, "Hey, Dad, listen to this one," or "Hey, listen to this one." All right. So this is one where I had a couple of songs from them, from this band called The Early November. And again, can't tell you much more about them other than I had a couple of songs in my Rolodex of playlists, and this song "Hair" was one that I've always just kind of liked. I don't know why, but thought it'd be a good way to end the playlist. And neither one of you are probably familiar with the band either. And at first it starts out kind of like, "Hello, how are you?" Da da da, and then it gets in. But then when it gets into the chorus part, all we need, it's actually got a pretty cool little I don't know what you call it, vibe to it, that is probably similar to a lot of other bands that we listen to, but you wouldn't know it. At the time, you just go, "Oh," whether they're a copycat or not. It's a pretty cool song.
There you
I think
go.
it's you, Jose, right?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah, because you're last. Yeah, no, it's definitely out of all the songs I like, who? I mean, minus the what's it called?
Calexico?
He's like, "Oh, this is the second biggest surprise on the playlist." But it's it's a good song, and it starts out you're like, "Wait, what's this? What's going on there?" And then, like you said, you got to delve into it a little before you pass judgment, and hoping that's not the whole song. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. It's a good way to end it, and I like again that we are exploring. We're not just going with the norms. No one went with the Eagles. No one went, with the Eurythmics. I thought about the Eurythmics and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, I'm liking that. Again, always new music is good music for the most part.
Yeah, when you have talked about and played a few songs, Dave, that you heard from your kids, and it'd be too much of a generalization to say they all sound similar, but some of them, they have kind of a sound that this initially reminded me of. And I will be completely honest, when I first heard it, I'm like, "Oh, really? What is this?" But you get like you said, you get in just like after that little intro. I really like the arrangement, the chord changes, and I like the lyrics. And it turned around to be one of my favorite songs that I didn't know on this playlist. Which is funny how that happens. And that's kind of a thing with this, and we've talked about this at least off camera. Sometimes you have to try to suspend judgment and give a song a chance. One of the more contemporary music. I don't listen to a lot of the stuff, but then what is the one you played, Jose? Oh, what's her name? I don't know. Anyway, it's stuff that I don't normally listen to. Billie Eilish,
Wow.
and so I kind of tune it out because of my prejudices, which, I mean, like about music, which is telling, going on 60, I'm becoming what I kind of had trouble with people who had trouble with my music when I was younger. And so this is always a good reminder to like be open to stuff, and not just this, but like all kinds of stuff, like the Dio Black Sabbath. That wouldn't have been my first choice, but then I listened to it, and if I, uh, give it a chance, it's good stuff. I don't have a problem with any song on this, frankly. Yeah, so that's A through E. We're going to continue. I don't know if they're going to be bam, bam, bam in the one after the other, or how we're going to do it. We'll discuss that. But you kind of said a little bit of this, Jose. But what bands? What are some bands that you guys didn't put on that you strongly considered, or just kind of curious about the ones that didn't make it?
Wow. There's plenty like Buffalo Springfield, The Doors. It's incredible how many we kind of look over. Deep Purple.
Um,
So,
well, from AC/DC was high on my list, believe it or not.
Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers, right?
I had the Cranberries, I was thinking, but I think I've done one of those before. So
Dire Straits. It
Dire
was.
Straits.
I
Dire
really
Straits
had
is another
to.
one.
I really had to fight that off because that would have been my first thought. But I put a few on now, and I don't want to kind of get in a rut. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's always there, like I said, there'll be some better letters better than others for sure. That will be the challenge, so.
Well, I enjoyed this. Don't go ahead.
I was gonna say, hopefully, like I said, if everyone liked this, then stay tuned because we're gonna do FGHIJ coming up. So, yeah,
Some of those letters are gonna be a little more challenging, you know. Q, X, even I, surprisingly, at looking ahead, I found a little difficult. Wah, wah. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. Unless anybody else has anything to say, we'll see you next time. This is fun, and actually the challenge makes it fun too, so.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll see each other later.
peace
Bye-bye.
out.